Hello and welcome to Shut Up and Sit Down Teaches Pandemic Legacy. First off, can I congratulate you on an absolutely awesome purchase. We said this was the best game in the world in 2015 and you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. So, I'm gonna assume that you have set up the board game already, just like, there's a hair there, just like is in the wonderful setup manual, set up in the manual. Okay, so once you've set that up, you can start watching this video. And I'm gonna teach everybody the basics of how to play. This is a legacy game though, which means you're gonna be changing it, you're gonna be putting stickers on it, you're gonna be doing all sorts of stuff and introducing new rules. So if the game ever, in a sticker or a card, contradicts something I've said, go with the game. Lord knows it knows itself better than I do. So, let me outline what you're doing in Pandemic Legacy. As I hope you know, all of you are members of the Center for Disease Control. You live in Atlanta. All your little player pawns, based on how many people you're playing with, are going to start in Atlanta, and you're going to win the game by curing 4 different diseases. We'll get onto how you do that in a while. And you're going to lose the game if the diseases ravage the world, and we'll get onto how they do that. The first thing I want to cover is what you're going to do in a turn. So for that, let's focus on North America. So on your turn, and play is going to start with the player who was most recently ill. After you've dealt cards and you're ready to go, that player is going to take their turn and then you're going to proceed in a clockwise manner. A player's turn features them taking 4 actions. I'm going to list them all, but don't worry because you've got a little handy dandy reference card that's going to tell you exactly what those actions are again. You can do them in any order as many times as you like. So let's say you're this lovely little pink pawn. The first and simplest action is to drive or ferry somewhere. That would be 1 action. If you want to go up to New York, that would be 2 actions. So you've got 2 actions left. The next action I'm going to outline is treating. You can treat a disease cube. You just pick it up and take it away. That's an action. And then if you treated a second cube, that would be 2 more actions. So that would be your entire turn. Move, move, treat, 4 actions. And then you'd move on to the housekeeping at the end of your turn, which I'll cover later. How you actually cure a disease though, and how you do lots of other action comes down to your hand of cards. You're going to have a number of cards in your hand and you're going to be drawing new ones each turn. More on that later. They all let you do different things. First off, the way you cure a disease is by collecting 5 cards of the same color, which is exactly as much of a pain in the ass as it sounds like. And once you've got your 5 cards, you're going to go to a city with one of these white buildings that show a Center for Disease Control headquarters, and you're going to cash in those 5 cards. You're going to discard them all. And then you're going to look over here to where the disease cubes are kept and you're going to pop this cure symbol there. Congratulations, you've cured that disease. That does something else as well. Now that I've cured yellow disease, if I find myself in a city with lots of yellow cubes and I take a treat action, which ordinarily would only remove 1 yellow cube, because we've got the cure for that disease, with the treat action, I in fact remove everything yellow from that city. But problem is, there are lots of different tempting ways to spend these cards. So look, I've got the New York card here. Let's go back to America. Let's say I'm the white pawn, and in my hand of cards, I've got this New York card. I can actually discard this New York card on my turn as an action, and I can pick that up, put it in the discard pile, and that lets me build a new CDC there. And that's relevant because CDCs are adjacent. So in fact, I can, for 1 action, take a shuttle flight between our 2 CDCs and just fly between them. That becomes super useful if you have loads that are really far away, because for 1 action I could go here, or anywhere else in the world. There's other ways to use flights though. Where did I put that New York card? Let me show you the other way that you can use city cards. If I'm anywhere in the world, I could spend that New York card, and again, discard it, to go to New York. That's called chartering a flight, and it's one of my favorite things about Pandemic. It makes me feel so awesome and international. You know, I go into the Hong Kong airport and say, I need to save the world, get me on that flight to New York. Even cooler than that though, if you're in New York and you've got the New York card, what you can do is you can spend it to fly anywhere in the world. So if you've got, let me go through that again, if I've got the Hong Kong card and I'm in Hong Kong, I can spend that Hong Kong card to fly anywhere in the world. That's really nice. The final action, we got through them all. Look, this whole card, we've learned it. The final action you can do is trade knowledge. And this is a pain. Trading knowledge, actually giving cards to other players around the table so they can complete those sets of 5 cards they need to cure the disease, is kind of tricky. Because let's say I want to give this red Hong Kong card to another player who we've decided is collecting red. we both have to have our pawns in Hong Kong all the way over here, and then one of us has to spend an action either taking or giving this card. So that player could do it or I could do it, but we'd both have to be in Hong Kong, and the only card we could trade is Hong Kong. It's a total pain, but worth it if it'll help you save the world. So now all that's done, I should get on to how you actually win or lose. Well, you win by getting cures for the 4 diseases. That's great, but there are actually 3 different ways you can lose. And the first is if this deck down at the bottom runs out. This is the deck of all those useful cards you're using. At the end of every single player's turn, they're going to draw 2 cards off the top that go into their hand. And if this deck ever runs out and is empty, and you need to draw cards from it and you can't, you've lost. You haven't saved the world in time. There are 2 other ways you can lose, though, relating to this horrible infection deck. This is the deck you're going to hate and love, because it's also the smartest thing about Pandemic. So you'll notice in this little reference down here, at the end of your turn, you're going to do your 4 actions, draw 2 cards, and then you're going to infect cities. And what that means, you're going to check this infection track down here, which will start the game at 2, and you're going to infect 2 cities. That's nice and simple. These, by the way, you're going to flip over during setup. These are the 9 cities that start the game infected. So then you're going to flip 2 more. Oh, looks like we've got 1 blue cube in Paris, because this is a blue card and Paris is a blue city. And then, oh, we're also infecting Shanghai. That puts a red cube in Shanghai, and that's the end of your turn. Now, if these red cubes in the supply ever run out, if you ever need to place a red cube or a blue cube or a black or a yellow, and you can't, you've lost as well, because that disease is considered to have got out of control. You just straight up lose that game, stop playing, it's over, you didn't do well. The third way you can lose relates to outbreaks, and now I'm going to tell you about a secret. There's a secret in this deck, and that's you're going to, on some terms, go to draw your card. Oh, I hope I get a red. Oh, I thought I rigged this deck. You're going to get an epidemic card instead. These epidemics are seeded throughout the deck at certain points, and they are the engine that powers Pandemic. They also tell you exactly how to play on the card. First off, you're going to increase. That means you bump the infection rate track up, and when it hits 3, you're going to infect 3 cities a turn, and when it hits 4, you're going to infect 4 cities a turn, and that's just awful. Hopefully you've won the game before that happens. So, you're going to increase the stack, then you're going to infect. And you pick this deck up, and you draw a card from the bottom. Why do you do that? Well, we'll get to that in a bit. So you'll infect the bottom city with not 1, not 2, but 3 cubes. In this case, we've got Delhi. Whomp, 3 cubes go on Delhi. And that number 3 is relevant. We'll get to why in a moment. You're being very patient. The final thing you do on an epidemic card is intensify. And this is the best, coolest rule in Pandemic. You take all those cards you've got, including the one that just came off the bottom of the deck, then you take them and you shuffle them. And then once they're shuffled, you put them back on the deck, which means in future turns, as you're infecting cities, you're going to be infecting the same cities you've seen again. It's the game's way of simulating these disease hotspots burbling and popping again over and over. And that is really, really bad, because when you go to put a 4th cube of the same color in a city, like we've got cities up here. So let's say if I draw the Moscow or Tehran card, which if you look, they've got 3 already, they're ready to pop. Karachi, oh, did I actually put it in here? Well, look, let's say we draw the Delhi card, which was that bottom card we hit with our epidemic, right? We would draw this, we'd go to put a black cube in Delhi, but look, you can never have more than 3 cubes of the same color, so we're going to have an outbreak in Delhi. I will point out here that it's perfectly fair to have cubes of other colors in the same city, so that wouldn't cause an outbreak, but this would. We got to put a black cube in, we can't. And instead of putting cubes in Delhi, that means we put a cube in Kolkata, and Chennai, and Mumbai, and Karachi, and then we'd go to put one in Tehran as well, because they're all connected to Delhi. That's what happens when a city outbreaks, but because Tehran's full as well, we try to put that 4th in, and it doesn't actually fit, which means we put one in Karachi, and we put another one in Baghdad, and we go to, oh no, look, Moscow's got 3 as well, so that would cause a 3rd outbreak this turn. Importantly though, when you're chaining outbreaks like this, cities can only outbreak once as a cause of a single card flip. So while we're flipping Tehran is not going to cause Delhi to have a 2nd outbreak. Delhi has an outbreak, which causes Tehran to have an outbreak. Delhi's immune to that. Then Moscow has an outbreak, and Tehran's immune to that. Double check the rules in the manual. If you're a bit uncertain about this, it is tricky to get your head around. But in this example, we would have had 3 outbreaks, which means we would have moved the outbreak tracker up from 0 to 1, 2, 3. And if it ever hits that skull and crossbones, you lose the game. And good news, that's the basics of Pandemic Legacy. You've got it. It's a game of risk management. It's really tricky. It's fascinating. I hope you're going to love it. We're just going to cover a few extra things, some of which are unique to the Legacy format, rules that don't quite fit in anywhere else. The first of which is that everybody gets a character, and your character is going to have special abilities that only they can do, and you're going to get to choose what character you are. You get to sort of name them. You get to upgrade them at the end of games, but the manual will tell you how to do that. Importantly, and a final thing about outbreaks, you've got 2 slots on your character here for scars. If your character is ever in a city when it outbreaks, so let's say we had people in Tehran and Delhi while those cities were outbreaking, you would have to pick a scar from Pandemic Legacy's giant sticker set, and you're going to have to pick a permanent disability for that character. For example, maybe they've got PTSD, or they're regretful, or they're intimidated. Lots of fun role-playing stuff for you there. So characters will develop as the game goes on. Cities will as well. If we look here at Bangkok, there's a 1 here on Matt's copy of Pandemic Legacy. That's because in his game he had an outbreak there. In Pandemic Legacy, whenever a city outbreaks, you have to put a sticker there. If it outbreaks for a second time over the course of your campaign, you're going to replace that 1 with a 2 to a 3, a 3 to a 4. That means cities slowly creep. If we cross-reference here, you can see what happens. And 1 doesn't do anything because the city's just unstable, but at level 2 or 3 it starts rioting, then collapsing, and finally it falls, which has different game effects that you can read about yourself. So you're upgrading your characters with scars and upgrades, you're upgrading the city. What have I forgotten? Oh, yes. Finally, it's not all bad news. In this deck, you are going to seed some yellow cards representing your government funding. The manual will tell you exactly how to do that. But you're going to pick some of these bright yellow cards and put them in the deck, which makes the deck bigger so the game lasts a bit longer. But also these have one-shot skills on them. So you're going to draw them over the course of your regular game, and these cards give you superpowers, and you can play them whenever you want. So a government grant is going to let you add a research station anywhere on the board, or One Quiet Night, a classic Pandemic card, means you skip the infect city step. So a player can go, oh, I don't like the board state. Hey, everybody, I'm going to play One Quiet Night. One thing I will say, as far as hands of card go, this isn't like most board games where you've got a secret hand of cards. It's not like poker. Actually, everyone has their hand of cards, but you play with them face up. They are public knowledge and public information, and all you and your friends are going to be doing is looking at this board together, discussing what to do together, thinking about what you want to do. But ultimately, and this is really important, if you've got a friend who's telling you what to do, it's still your turn. It's still your character. They can't play the game for you. If you think you know how to play, you should do that. If you think you know what the solution to a problem is, you should do that. Don't let yourself get pushed around, because you'll have more fun that way. All right, everybody, I think that covers just about everything in Pandemic Legacy. Just set the game up and go through your first game and pay close attention to what the manual tells you to do, because there are so many secrets and surprises and tricks and moments of great joy in this game. Look, I didn't say it, but look, there's loads of little presents in the box. What's in here? We don't know. There's a deck of secret stuff. Oh, you're going to have so much fun. Good luck, and make sure you save London, because that's just important.